Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming. Today we
Good
are
morning.
going to be discussing some of the laws of Passover, of Pesach, that are going to be applying this year and every year. We will not get into such specific details of what is going to be happening this year at this class because Rabbi Avram will be giving that. Rabbi Avram will be giving that class either on Zoom or in person. So I will not be discussing what's going to be happening on Shabbat going into Passover this year. Okay, Passover this year starts on March 27th, which is Saturday. It's going to start on Saturday night and it goes through April 4th. That's for this year. It's an 8-day holiday and it's celebrated every year in the early spring, at least in America, from the 15th through the 22nd of the Hebrew month of Nisan. So that's the Tet Vav, which is the 15, numerical value 15, through Chav Bet Nisan. It commemorates the emancipation of the Jewish people from slavery in ancient Egypt. And how do we observe this holiday? We observe this holiday by avoiding leavened bread, and we highlight this by the Seder meals. We have 2 Sedarim. In America, we have 2 Sedarim, and that include part of the Seder we have to do is 4 cups of wine. We eat matzah, we eat the bitter herbs, the maror, and we retell the story of the Exodus. That is a mitzvah. That is the mitzvah of Passover is the Sipur, the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. Sometimes you feel like, oh, who am I telling it to? I'm all alone. No, there's a mitzvah, even if you're alone, to tell the story over. This way you hear it into your ears, what happened. And that's why it's a very, very special time. Grandparents usually like to go to the grandchildren. I know last year it was very hard for many grandparents for the first time in their life. They were not with their grandchildren because of COVID. But why is it such an important thing? Because the Torah says, "V'higadta levincha," and you should tell your children by Yom Ha'hu on that day. That day is Passover. You should tell your children on Passover, your children and grandchildren, the story of coming out of Egypt. Okay, so let's discuss, if we have to get rid of all the chametz in our house, let's discuss what is chametz. What items in our house are we looking around for and trying to get rid of before Passover? Chametz literally means leaven, anything that's leaven. Any food that's made of grain and water that have been allowed to ferment and rise. So we'll go through some of the obvious ones: bread, cereal, cake, cookies, pizza, pasta, and beer. Beer is chametz. These are blatant examples of chametz. But any food that contains grain or grain derivatives can be and often is chametz. Particularly speaking, any processed food that is not certified kosher for Passover may potentially include chametz ingredients. Okay, so how do you know when something is kosher for Passover?
There's
So
a
I'm going to
label
show
on it.
you that here. Let's see if it comes out. Oh, sorry. You're not going to be able to see that because of my background. But next to the kosher symbol, it will have a P for Passover. Okay, the P doesn't stand for Parav. The P stands for Passover. So if you go shopping in the store, HEB has a beautiful section set up for Passover items. And you look at those items, you'll see many of those, or actually all of those items, should be bearing the kosher status OUP or some other kosher symbol. For example, the SKA would have a P next to it if it were kosher for Passover. The SKA is not certifying anything kosher for Passover. When you do go into HEB and you see the kosher certification on the bread on Passover, it is still certified kosher, but not kosher for Passover. Do not buy the bread from HEB, even though it has the kosher symbol on there. That is only for Passover. During the year, please buy it. That is one certainty that there's no grain in there There's no grain mixed into that recipe. So if you buy the pasta sauce, some people will make a matzah pizza. They'll take matzah and they'll make pizza on top of that. You want to make sure that the one you're buying has the OUP on there, has the Passover symbol. These are some of the things we're looking for. Again, you're not going to be having beer over Passover. That's just one of the things you're not going to have. You're not going to be having your delicious challah. From the morning of Passover until the conclusion of the festival, for approximately 8 days and some hours, we avoid eating chametz or anything containing the slightest vestige thereof. It's also forbidden to own chametz or to derive benefit from chametz in any way, or to even have chametz physically present in our domain during this time. So what are some of the things that we're not going to eat chametz? Now I understand we're not going to eat it. We're not going to own chametz. Wait a second. I have chametz in my house. My pantry is fully stocked. We are not going to even benefit from the chametz. One of the benefits would be, let's say, if we're feeding our animals chametz, so we'd have to make sure to have kosher for Passover food for animals. That may include, your fish food changing over from regular fish food to krill. You might want to start them on that now. The many fish will eat krill over Pesach, or maybe some matzah meal. But don't go straight to matzah meal. That will kill your fish. But slowly wean them, slowly. And then having it in our domain. So we're going to get into these things a little bit deeper and figure out what are ways that we can get around this. Okay, one more thing, then we'll answer your question, Michael. Attaining a chametz for Pesach includes 6 basic steps: cleaning the home, setting up your Passover kitchen, selling your chametz, searching for your chametz, burning, and nullifying the chametz. And we'll talk about each one of these things in a little bit more detail. Yes, Michael?
I assume things like whiskeys and scotches, those are also not kosher for Passover as well, right?
That is correct. And what we're going to do with those, since those would be, a shame to have to spill down the drain, we're gonna sell those. We're gonna sell those for Passover. So Rabbi Scheinberg does selling of chametz. So you wouldn't have to bring your chametz in, but it's an actual procedure that you come into his office, or maybe he'll be doing it online, but you will actually sell your chametz with a full binding contract, and whoever buys it, whichever non-Jew buys it, they own it. Now, they might not be paying full price at the time of the sale, but they're basically saying, here's my down payment. Here's my down payment on all the chametz that I'm buying. And if I eat any of it, which I do have the option, if I eat any of it, then I will finish paying the rest. If not, then when I get around to it, I'll pay you. And then after Passover, we say, okay, you know what? We'll buy it back. And usually the rabbi will increase the amount that he's going to buy it back for. For example, if the non-Jew purchased all the chametz in town for $1,000, the rabbi will purchase it back for $1,500. Which is why when we're actually purchasing the chametz, when we're selling the chametz, sometimes you'll notice people will give the rabbi some extra money, 20, 30, 40, $50, just as a service fee. But at the end of the day, he is going to have to pay more money to the non-Jew to buy it back. I remember last year when we were selling our chametz during the pandemic, we were fortunate enough to stock up on some pasta just as the pandemic started, and I was afraid that I was not actually going to be able to get it back. But luckily we got it back.
Who buys it? I'm curious.
So in the community, Sam, the maintenance fellow from the shul, is actually the one who's purchasing it here in San Antonio.
Interesting.
Okay, cleaning for Passover. I know everyone's very excited to find out what exactly do we need to do in order to clean for Passover. So let's get started. We're looking, okay, we're gonna give you a basic overview of what we're looking for exactly when we're cleaning. So in the promotional video, you saw that there was a child standing on one side of a glass and the mother was on the other side of a glass in a jumpsuit, and she was cleaning the shower, scrubbing down at the bottom of the shower of the mold and mildew that built up over there. That's not actually cleaning for Passover. That's making your house very nice. It'll make it beautiful. People will come to your house and be like, wow, is your house clean? But that's not what you need to do in order to have a Chometz-free house and a Chometz-free area that for Passover. What we are looking for are pieces of Chometz that may apply and that may appeal to you on Pesach. What would that be? Well, let's think about it. If you have your favorite beer and your favorite beer is hanging out in your fridge, and come Passover and you forgot to clean your fridge out, and you grab your favorite beer out of the fridge, God forbid, that right there would be an example of something that we're looking for to get rid of before Passover starts. Something that you may eat, something that your child may eat. That goes into if you've got crumbs around. If you've got crumbs around on the seat that you're going to be sitting on for Passover, and those crumbs may now come onto the table. That over there is an example of when we're trying to get rid of crumbs. When your crumbs may come in contact with your food and you may ingest these crumbs, then we want to get rid of them. But in a normal circumstance, getting down with your bleach and all your hard cleaning materials in and around the crevices that you might find in your house, going in the bathroom and checking around in your shower and things like that, you won't find any edible chametz in your shower stall. You just won't find it there, because the soap has come in contact with it and has made it not edible. Your cleaning help has definitely sprayed something on there in the past. But in your oven, you're going to find some crumbs. Your toaster oven, you're not even going to use, because that for sure is fully saturated with some good chametz all over the place. There's crumbs in your toaster oven. It's impossible to clean out a toaster oven. So what do you do? How do you get rid of it? So many items we will actually replace with kosher for Passover items. For example, we have a kosher for Passover toaster. So instead of our regular year-round toaster, our year-round toaster is going to be boxed up and put away for Passover. And we've got a special Passover toaster, which we will take out and we're going to use when we're making matzah pizza, when we're making anything else, blintzes. We're going to use our kosher for Passover toaster oven. Now, these items that you're going to replace in your house, you'll mark them kosher for Passover. You'll keep them specially for Passover. You're only going to take them out once your house has been cleaned. Now, how do you clean your house? Well, you've got to do it systematically. You can't just say, okay, you know what? Today, March 7th, I'm inspired by Rabbi Moshe's class. I'm going to start with my fridge. I'm getting rid of everything in my fridge that's not kosher for Passover. Well, which is basically anything that we've had out during the year, we would not want to have on Passover. But so basically, I'm going to clean out my entire fridge today. That's very nice. However, you're going to need your fridge for the next 3 weeks until Passover comes. So you're going to start sticking things back in there. So let's start with areas of the house that we can kosher certify for Passover and say, you know what, from now on, there is no chametz that is going to come in this area. So as each area of your house gets cleaned, make sure that everybody knows that this is kosher for Passover. This room is kosher for Passover and absolutely off limits to any food to be brought in here. Some practical advice: start with the bedrooms. The bedrooms are a place that there's not so much chametz in there. Some people will make certain that absolutely no food are brought in the bedrooms, and that we're going to discuss in a minute. But most rooms, at some point, there will be some food that's brought in there, especially if you have kids. You'd have to check every room in your house. So then proceed with living room, other common rooms, leaving the dining room and the kitchen for last. Why? Because these are places that you're going to designate for eating chametz until as close as possible to the deadline of chametz eating that you can do in those places. I mean, we move into our garage. We move our car out of our garage. We move into our garage about a week to a week and a half before Passover, and that's where we eat. We eat in the garage. We set up a table. We have some chairs, and we eat there. It's usually nice weather, so it's not terrible to eat out in the garage. And then we would brush ourselves off before we go into the house if we need to get anything from inside while we're actually eating. Other places that will need to be cleaned are your office, your car, your pocketbook, or any space that is yours by ownership, lease, or you have rights to use. So if you have a storage, if you have a storage container by your house, or you rent storage, and you go there sometimes and you spend the day there, cleaning or doing whatever you're doing, and you bring your lunch with you, then you would have to check that area for chametz. You may have put down your sandwich, got an important phone call, left, and ran away. Then on Passover, you go there, you're looking for something, you're looking for your Passover toaster oven in your storage unit, and you're like, hey, look at that. That's my sandwich. I miss eating bread, and you, by mistake, take a bite of it. That's what we're afraid of. So that is why we are going to clean that area. There are places that you may not have to clean, which are rooms that you are absolutely certain that no food was ever brought in there. Let's say you have a room in your house that's a historical room. I don't know why anyone would have this in their house, but let's say you're one of those grandparents that have a historical room in your house that you sit there by the entrance of the room, and you are making sure that nobody brings food or anything in there, or even a camera with a flash. Right? For those of you that's ever been to a museum, you know what I'm talking about. But that room would be a room that you do not have to check for Passover. Now, there's another room that you wouldn't have to check for Passover, which would be rooms that are going to be sold. You can actually sell rooms in your house for Passover. Yes, in the contract, you can actually sell rooms of your house. So, for example, I am going to sell my pantry because my pantry is filled from top to bottom with chametz items. All of my pasta, my cereal, my whatever non-kosher for Passover items that I have, I'm going to stick them all in the pantry, and I'm going to sell the pantry and all of its contents. This room I do not have to check. So that would take a huge amount of time if I needed to go through my entire pantry and clean it up and neaten it up and start wiping everything down. Then that would take a large amount of time. So in order to save myself time, I'm just going to sell the entire pantry. The kitchen. Let's talk a little bit about the kitchen. The kitchen is a very hard place to deal with because you prepare chametz food there all year round. So it's obviously the most difficult part of the house to make kosher for Passover. However, it's also the most important part of the house to make kosher for Passover because that's where you're going to be preparing all of your Passover food. So you want to give the kitchen an extra careful cleaning. You're going to line the cabinets and food storage places with cardboard, silver foil, or paper liner. And you're going to cover all countertops and tables. Now, there are some countertops which are able to be koshered. You're able to make them kosher for Passover. It's difficult, but it can be done. I think Rabbi Avram is going to be discussing that in this class. If not, then next week's class we will talk about koshering counters and sinks and your ovens as well for Passover. It's preferable to have a separate set of pots, dishes, cutlery, etc. designed for Pesach use only. Many have special range tops in Israel for sure. They have these little square range tops that they're going to use, toaster ovens, microwaves, all these special for Passover. If this is not possible, certain utensils can be koshered for Passover by putting them in boiling water. Just like if we used a meaty spoon for dairy. So what we're going to do with that is we are going to stick the that spoon or that utensil into a pot of boiling water, and that would make it back to kosher. All right, selling your chametz. Because we know that we can't have any chametz in our domain, we got to get rid of it all. So we have to sell it. We have to sell it. Let's say you own a liquor store, or you just bought, a 3-month supply of breakfast cereal on a sale or something like that. Or you live in a huge house and you say, it's impossible for me to check this entire house. There is a way of avoiding ownership. You could avoid ownership, but without getting rid of the chametz, by selling it. Since the commandment in the Torah for one to rid chametz of one's domain, it's only binding for a Jew. You could sell your chametz to a non-Jew, and then you can buy it back from him after Passover. And some people might feel like, hey, it seems like a joke. It seems like, if I could sell it and buy it back, is that real? There have been stories of the non-Jew who bought the chametz, have gone into Jewish houses and taken it. I'm gonna tell you a little secret. I was trying to convince the maintenance man over here to go into someone's house and demand that he give up some of his chametz because it belongs to me. I said, I know he has some good alcohol. Please, make yourself at home. Go to his house and say, like, hey, I want some of my alcohol that's located in your pantry, because you have to write where it's located. It's his. He has to have access to it. He was close. He was close to doing it, but he's like, I don't drink alcohol, so I'm not going down. But he owns it. If the price of alcohol would skyrocket, if there would be a ban on selling alcohol, I'm sure that he would take up every opportunity to take every ounce of alcohol you had left in your house. So it is his. He owns it, and he can come in and claim it at any point before you buy it back. It's a 100% legal binding contract, and therefore must be conducted by a competent rabbi. Designated areas where you're going to be placing chametz that you're selling. Did I mention that when you're cleaning your house, you should put up signs as you clean the area? Should put up signs as you clean the area. This area has been cleaned for Passover. Do not enter with chametz. Because if you don't put that sign up, and I'll give you an example of something that happened to me this past week. If you don't put that sign up and be very vigilant of not letting anyone go in there with chametz, then you're going to have to check that area again. So last week, over the course of the week, we found some time to clean our bedroom. We're going to start with the bedrooms, and we're cleaning our bedroom, but our bedroom is not far from the kitchen. And my youngest son decided that while he was eating breakfast, he's going to walk into the bedroom. So here he goes into the bedroom holding a bread roll, and he walks into the bedroom. I said, oh, great. Now I have to check this room again. And I'm going to check it again. It's going to be easier now to check, but I will have to check my room again for chametz, and that we're going to talk about in the next thing of checking for chametz at the very last point before Passover. When you are going to be selling your chametz, like I said, my pantry is going to be sold. I'm going to put a sign on the pantry that says sold. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this for two reasons. Number one, so that no one in my house makes a mistake. We're going to be having guests, and I don't want my guests to walk into my pantry looking for something to eat. The area is sold. It's sold. It's marked off sold. my alcohol closet is going to be marked as sold. Whatever area that I'm going to be selling is going to be marked as sold or tied up with a ribbon or something like that, so that we will know that this area is off limits over the course of Passover. Okay. That is selling your chametz. Bedikat chametz. At the very last day, the night before Passover, this year we're actually going to be doing it earlier. We're going to be doing it Thursday night, and Passover is Saturday night. So this is called Bedikat chametz. We're checking for chametz. We conduct a very serious candlelit search for any remaining or forgotten chametz. Again, this year, when Passover falls on Saturday night, we're going to do this on Thursday night. The items that you're going to need is a candle to illuminate the hard-to-reach nook and crannies, a feather, okay, a feather to sweep up the chametz, the small crumbs, a wooden spoon to hold the chametz and facilitate the burning, and a paper bag to hold all of your chametz items. Okay, so if you look at a picture, if you check out Bedikat chametz on Google, you'd probably get it. Someone standing there with a wooden spoon, a feather, and a candle. These are items that that will generally be used, and it's great when you have kids. One gets to hold the feather, one gets to hold the wooden spoon, one gets to hold the bag. Now, by this time, the night before Passover, your house should be completely clean for Passover, and hopefully there's not going to be any chametz to be found. Therefore, it's customary to prepare 10 carefully wrapped pieces of bread. Now, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. When you wrap these pieces of bread, wrap them in paper, because if you wrap them in tinfoil, then the next day when you go to burn them, at the burning of the chametz, they're not actually going to burn because they're wrapped in tinfoil. They'll just become toasty pieces of bread. Wrap them in paper, put a little piece of tape on there. It's okay. The tape will burn off. And you're going to put a number on each one. You're going to put a number on each one. The kids love helping out with this part. Each one will get a number, and it's going to be like a scavenger hunt around the house for these 10 pieces of bread. Now, whoever is going to be doing it, right? Sometimes we'll let the kids hide it, but we will always have an adult with our kids writing down exactly where each piece is located, and then we're going to put a checkbox next to it. So as soon as we find it, we're going to check off that number that we found, because we're going to be putting down 10 pieces, and if we only find 9, then we're in trouble. We got to keep looking. So that would be a piece of advice for anyone who's going to have their kids, grandkids, or anybody helping them out hiding these chametz. Sometimes the kids will fall asleep in the middle, or they'll fall asleep before, or whatever reason, or they'll have a fit and they don't want to participate. So write them down on a piece of paper exactly where they are. They don't have to be super hidden, but they have to be put in places that, you know what, some chametz might have gone there. For example, behind the couch. Right, you're eating, you're sitting on the couch, you're enjoying some just relaxation time, and you've got a bag of pretzels, and you lean back, and your pretzels spill all over the floor and behind the couch. Great example of where you would want to make sure that you check again right before Pesach. The whole process could take an hour, maybe more, depends on how hard you search and how hard the ones who are hiding the chametz will hide it. There's 2 blessings that are going to be made. I'm sorry, 1 blessing and then 1 like prayer. And you are going to say as follows: Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al biur chametz, on the removal of chametz. You are going to try and remove this chametz from your house. That's the bracha that you are going to make. And then you're going to carefully search the entire house for any chametz that you may have missed in the cleaning process and collect these 10 hidden pieces. Put the chametz, the feather, the wooden spoon, and the remains of the candle in the paper bag. close it securely, and store it in a safe place for burning the next day. Now you're going to recite the nullification statement that is going to renounce your ownership of any chametz that you may have missed. And it says, all leaven and anything leaven and unleavened that is in my possession, which I have neither seen nor removed, and about which I am unaware, shall be considered nullified and ownerless as the dust of the earth. That is your final prayer that you're going to be saying. And this year we're going to say it again on Shabbat. We usually will say that twice. One when we're done searching, and one when we burn it. This year the burning is going to happen on Friday morning. However, you're going to have a little leftover like bread that you're going to eat on Shabbat morning. Early in the morning on Shabbat for your Shabbat meal, you start out with some bread, and then you can eat the rest kosher for Passover. For example, like if you start eating outside and then you brush yourself off, come inside, and everything else would be kosher for Passover. That would be the process for this year's Shabbat morning meal. There's a lot more to talk about, and I would like to have another class next week, which we're going to discuss the why of Passover, how to go about doing certain things for Passover, the Seder, what things you have to do, what things you should have by your Seder, and just a little bit about the story, a little bit more about the story of the Passover Seder. All right, we are finished our class for today, and we have question time right now. What questions do you all have? I'm sure you all have lots of questions. Michael, I see your hand is still up.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't go away. I
It
don't know
didn't
how
go
to.
away. Let me see. Let me see what I can do there.
Um,
Boom. All right.
I do have a question on, if in